I used to believe that evil had a face. That it came with red eyes, snarling lips, or maybe dark clothes and a creepy smile. But I was wrong. Evil looked like my best friend, Zara. We met in secondary school. She was the kind of girl everyone noticed, confident, stylish, always with the right words. I was the quiet one. Grew up in a small village, raised by my grandmother after my mom died giving birth to me. I didn't have much. But Zara made me feel like I belonged. She'd call me her sister. Defend me when others mocked my accent. Share her lunch with me when I had nothing. We became inseparable, braiding each other's hair, dreaming about life in the city, giggling over magazines and movie stars. She promised me something better. A fresh start after school. "You're too smart to rot here," she'd whisper. "There's more for you. I'll help you get there." And I believed her. After WAC, I had no real plans. No money for university. No connections. No future except the one Zara painted so beautifully. She told me she had an aunt in the city, someone with links in the fashion world. She said I could come stay with them, get a job, maybe even model or work in a boutique. It sounded like a dream. My grandmother was hesitant. But what could she do? She barely fed us. And Zara was family to me, closer than blood. So, with a small Gonomosgo bag, a second-hand phone, and a heart full of hope, I followed Zara to Lagos. The ride was long. But I didn't mind. I was leaving poverty behind. I was chasing my big break with my best friend by my side. Or so I thought. We arrived at night. The building didn't look like anything I imagined. No aunts, no warm welcome, just a locked door and a stern-looking man who didn't smile. Zara didn't explain anything. Just said, "You'll rest tonight. We'll talk tomorrow." I laid down on a thin mattress in a room with no windows, next to two girls I didn't know. They didn't smile either. Just stared. Something felt wrong. But I was too tired. Too trusting. Too late. Because by morning, my life would never be the same again. I woke up disoriented. It took me a moment to remember I wasn't home. No grandmother's soft humming, no morning sounds of roosters crowing. Just thick silence and the low hum of a generator outside the windowless room. Zara was already gone. I found the two girls from last night sitting on the bed, looking at me. Their eyes held something I couldn't place, something between pity and warning. "Where's Zara?" I asked. They didn't answer. A few minutes later, the stern man from last night unlocked the door. He had a phone in his hand and didn't even look at me when he said, "Get ready. You have your first client today." I blinked. Client? For what? That's when one of the girls, her name was Chika, finally spoke. "You're not here for fashion, girl. You're here to work." The walls closed in. I stood up, shaking. "There's been a mistake. I came with my friend," she said. "Zara brought you." Chika cut me off, her voice laced with bitterness. "Then it's no mistake." I ran to the door. Tried to push past the man. He slapped me so hard I saw stars. "You run again, and I'll make sure you regret it," he growled. That's when I realized. I was trapped. No money. No phone, they had taken it. No address. I didn't even know what part of Lagos I was in. And Zara. She didn't come back that day. Or the next. The first client came that evening. I screamed, begged, fought. They beat me. Starved me. Threatened to kill me. By the third day, I gave in. It's hard to explain what happens to a soul when it breaks. You stop being a person. You become a body. A product. A transaction. Zara had sold me. She, who once braided my hair and called me sister, had trafficked me like I was nothing. and no one was coming to save me. Days blurred into nights. Time lost meaning in that apartment. The windows were always shut, the air always thick, and the lights always dim. Every knock on the door meant another man. Another piece of me stolen. At first, I tried to count how many came. 5. 10. 12. Then I stopped. What was the point? We weren't allowed outside. Food was just enough to keep us alive. The other girls barely spoke. Some were newer than me, others had been there for months. Some had already given up. Their eyes looked empty. Hollow. I feared I was becoming one of them. I forgot what day it was. I forgot the sound of laughter. I forgot what it felt like to be touched without pain. I forgot my own name. They started calling me Blackie because of my dark skin. I didn't correct them. It didn't matter. My body moved, obeyed commands, responded to knocks. But inside, I was gone. Then one day, Zara came back. She walked in like nothing happened, in a tight dress and high heels, nails painted red. I stared at her in disbelief. "You," I whispered, standing up slowly. "You brought me here." She smirked. "You should be thanking me. At least now you're earning something. Or would you rather be sweeping compound back in the village?" I lunged at her. The man held me back and punched me in the ribs. I dropped to the floor, gasping, humiliated and shaking. Zara crouched beside me, her voice low. "You think you're special? They'll break you. Like they broke me." Then she stood and walked out. That night, I didn't cry. I just stared at the ceiling, replaying every moment I had trusted her. Every time I defended her. Every time she called me sister. I realized then Zara was not a victim anymore. She was the system. And I had to get out. Or die trying. I don't know when the shift happened. Maybe it was the night I saw Chike bleed out on the floor after trying to escape. Or the day one of the older girls disappeared after fighting a client, and no one spoke her name again. Or maybe it was that quiet voice inside me whispering, "You weren't born for this. You were not made to die like this." I started watching. Listening. Planning. The apartment had one main door always locked from the outside. The windows were sealed. But I noticed the guard stepped out briefly every evening to smoke. Just a few minutes. Just enough time. I also learned who the weakest link was, a younger man named Wesu who sometimes brought us food. He was cruel, but not as sharp as the rest. One night, I pretended to flirt. I told him he looked like Whisket. He laughed, his ego swelling. That night, he gave me extra bread. The next week, I asked if he had a phone. Told him I wanted to see my family. He refused. But I kept at it flattery, begging, promising not to run. He cracked. One morning, he let me make a call. Just one. My hands shook as I dialed the only number I still remembered, my grandmother's. It rang. Once. Twice. No answer. Tears burned my eyes. I had one shot. One. So I tried another number, an old classmate from school. She picked. Hello. I didn't even say my name. I just whispered, "It's me. Please. I'm in Lagos. I need help." The line went dead. I stood frozen. Had she hung up? Had she believed me? The next few days were hell. My hope rose. Then crashed with each passing hour. I began to think I had imagined it all. Then it happened. One evening, as the guard stepped out for his usual smoke, we heard pounding on the front door. Loud voices. Police. Chaos broke out. The other girls screamed. Zara ran into the hallway. One man tried to flee through the back but was caught. The door flew open. Freedom rushed in like wind. I ran outside barefoot, sobbing, falling, laughing. A female officer held me and said, "You're safe now." But I wasn't. Not really. I had escaped. But the trauma came with me. The shelter was quiet. Too quiet. They gave us clean clothes, warm food, and beds that didn't creak under strangers. But I couldn't sleep. Couldn't close my eyes without seeing faces. Hearing voices. Feeling hands that didn't belong. Weeks passed. The counselor said I was safe. But safety didn't feel like safety when your soul is still bleeding. Then came the hard part, talking. At first, I said nothing. I stared blankly during interviews. Refused to say Zora's name. Part of me still couldn't believe she did that to me. Until I saw the news. It was a random morning. One of the girls turned the TV on in the common room. And there she was. Zora. Standing at a youth conference podium. Giving a speech about empowering young girls and fighting against exploitation. I froze. She had cleaned up her image. Now went by Zora Gold. She was praised, celebrated, funded by NGOs. She ran a foundation for vulnerable women, the same kind she had trafficked. My stomach turned. I couldn't breathe. That was my breaking point. That day, I walked into the case officer's office and told them everything. Names. Places. What she did. What I saw. How I almost died. They listened. And they believed me. But it wasn't enough. I didn't want her just locked up. I wanted the world to know the truth. To see the monster behind the makeup. So I agreed to share my story. Not for pity. Not for fame. But because someone out there might be falling for the same trap. Might be trusting a friend like Zora. I spoke at survivor panels. I gave anonymous interviews. I wrote about my pain, my survival, my scars. I became a voice. People started listening. But the more my story spread, the more danger grew. Because Zora knew. She knew I was alive. She knew I remembered. And now, she was coming for me. They warned me to lie low. After my story aired anonymously, the shelter moved me to a safe house. No phones. No internet. Just 4 white walls and a borrowed name. But I wasn't scared. I was angry. And I was done hiding. Zora's people tried to silence me. First, it was a bribe. A man showed up pretending to be a journalist offering me money to take down my story. I said no. Then came the threats. "You're messing with the wrong people," a voice said over a blocked number. But I'd been through worse. I wasn't that naive village girl anymore. I was a survivor with nothing to lose. Then one day, she came in person. It was supposed to be a quiet day at the NGO office where I'd been volunteering. I was sorting files when the door opened and I heard heels. That signature click click click. I looked up and there she was. Zora. Elegant. Polished. Smiling like a snake in silk. "Long time," she said. I froze. My body stiffened, but my voice came out clear. "You shouldn't be here." She laughed. "Sweetheart, I made you. Without me, you'd still be fetching water in the bush." Rage boiled in my throat. "You sold me. Drugged me. Broke me." Her smile dropped. "And now you want to ruin me. After everything I built." "You built it on broken girls," I snapped. "And I'll make sure everyone sees the blood under your shoes." She stepped closer, her voice dropping to a whisper. "Careful. You think they'll protect you forever. One mistake, and you'll vanish like the others." I looked her in the eye. "Then I'll vanish with a legacy. And you?" You rot. Security came. They escorted her out. She didn't resist. Just turned and winked at me before disappearing down the hallway. My hands were shaking. But I stood tall. This was war now. And I wasn't backing down. I testified with trembling hands. The courtroom was packed. Zara sat across from me, dressed like a saint, surrounded by cameras and lawyers. She kept a calm smile on her face like none of it touched her. But I knew better. I told the court what she did. How she lured me with promises. How she drugged me. Locked me in a room with other broken girls. How she smiled while we cried. And for the first time, I didn't stutter. I didn't choke. I didn't hide behind shame. I stood in my truth. More survivors came forward. Some from years ago. Others who had been too scared until now. Her entire empire began to crumble. What she built on pain, lies, and blood was finally collapsing. The day the verdict came, I didn't go to court. I sat on a bench outside the shelter and just watched the sky. I didn't need to see her sentenced. I had already been freed the moment I told my story. But the news came anyway. Guilty. Multiple counts. Maximum sentence. People started recognizing me. Some called me brave. Others asked how I survived. Truth is, I didn't come back the same. There are days I still can't sleep. Nights I flinch at loud knocks. Smells that take me back to that room. But I'm healing. Slowly. And I've made it my mission to help others do the same. To speak. To fight. To remind them that they are not alone. Because for every Zara in the world, there are thousands of girls like me tricked by someone they trusted. And maybe, just maybe, my voice will be the one that stops the next one from falling.